Yes, hi there, and welcome to what's now becoming my 6th episode about the C128. I was planning on making several episodes, but even I see that this is taking it too far, but I still have a lot of ground to cover with the C128, and this time I'm going to modify my old C64 test harness to be able to be used on C128. And the most obvious thing I need to do is to make the tape connector thingy longer. And these joystick interfaces, they're a bit too short, but I am able to make them reach straight over. And as you can see, this is a heap of shit thing that I just soldered it together a couple of years ago. I did have a proper test harness some years ago, but I gave it away when I lost interest in the C64 for a while, and I gave away a lot of tools and other stuff. And I also had an original test cartridge and harness from back in the day, but that has disappeared in the mist of time. And there is also these differences between the C128 and the C64. It's for the serial plug. There are at least 2 different versions. And of course the keyboard connector is different. But the worst thing is that I see that there are 2 different 128 keyboard connectors, and there are always some in one of the test manuals it states that you should not connect the C128 keyboard test connector thingy until you have started the test. And of course I don't like to plug things into the computer while it's running. That's one thing. But I need to make sure that this both can be used on this scrap board that I have here, that is the 128, the normal board. And I also want to use it to test Tommy's 128 DCR board before I ship it back to him in Bodø. And I have ordered another test harness for the C128 that I thought was an interesting project to make, but that has to become a future episode. So in this episode, it's about adapting this to be able to be used on a C128 without making it impossible to use on a C64. And for this part, I do think it's manageable, quite easy. We only have to remember that this user port contraption I have here is actually a sawn-off contact that normally was this big. I do have a proper user port contact now, so I probably just should duplicate this and make a new one for the 128. But it still works, so I do think I will just adapt this one. And if this is the same, it's no problem. But if it's not the same, I'm just going to take off this lead and I'm going to make some switches on this to make the other connection around. Because this is only some loopbacks, and there are 2 loops on this standard. I can't remember which one it was, but I do think it was 1 and 5 and 3 and 4 something that was looped together inside of this. So this episode I'm going to test this test harness. I'm going to see if this is the one that actually fit both, or if it doesn't fit, if it gives some error message or whatnot. And the same with the other test harness. And I'm also going to test it with a couple of different versions of the test ROM. So let's just get cracking on this. This is the keyboard dongle, or rather the schematic for the keyboard dongle for the 128 test harness. And there are some slight differences, because the internal 128, take out this scrap board here, this almost fits a standard female 25 pin, yeah, socket like this, but I don't think this really gives enough contact. I have tried, yeah, I think 8 or 9 different of these DB25 thingies, and this is the one that gives the most resistance when I push it down. So I might have to use something else for the dongle that is going to fit on this. I might have to use just some, yeah, other plug or something with the same spacing and make this so that it fits, because I'm not sure about this. But the other one, the one that should fit in the 128, that should be the same. This is a male connector, and this is a real, yeah, normal DB25 connector. And the male for the DCR is the one I'm going to make first, because I'm going to test this on Arctic Retro's board. And as you can see, because they have just raised up this connector and changed the sex without turning the orientation, it's different how this should be connected from a female to a male. So I don't think there is any real benefit of making just one plug with, yeah, all the connections in one. So I'm going to make 2 of these, and they are quite straightforward. It's connecting these wires and leaving these pins open. So I'm just going to take some jumper leads and solder these together, and I don't care if they are long or short or whatever. I think it will be quite easy solder. But this plug, it's yeah, it's at least 40 years old, so even if this is gold plated, I might have some trouble with oxidation on these, but I'm going to solder them in with my good resin solder flux thingy that I have here. This is the Loctite version of this, but this is the same, I think, as the Wort brand. I'm just going to cut up some wires and get going on this. And how many wires do we need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wires. And that's going to be it, I think. And they don't, even though they are different length, it doesn't matter much. This is wires with good copper, so it's quite easy to solder, but I do seem to remember that this plastic here was melting very easy, so maybe not the best choice. But the silicone braided wire that I have in my kit here, even though it's very good and flexible, it's very soft and it will flex a lot. So I do think for a connector that I need to keep these in shape, I need something that is a bit more stiff than this one. And I could have used this kind of wire. This is the totally stiff wire with just one single conductor inside, and this is the one that I use on the breadboards, and it could have been good enough, but I tend to keep saving these ones when I'm doing breadboard work. So this was 6, and I can make 7th one out of this, and one light green maybe out of this. Doing this work with soldering cables and dismantling cables with an ordinary, yeah, cut-off kind of tool, I do it all the time. I've done this since I was 7 years old, and I don't cut many wires accidentally. But of course, the best, if you are not very good trained with this, is to use a dismantling tool. And you can, if I take this way again, you can see that the absolutely shortest connection will be actually just between these 2 points, but I will just thin these leads. make it a bit sturdier on the board. And that one should go up to 19. Yeah, this makes very bad video as I'm covering this with my soldering iron and my hand. So I'm just going to finish up on this. Yes, there I think it's finished. At least I've used all my wires. So I do think this is ready for a test. But there are some really strange things saying in this documentation, because it says that this can give errors, and it also said that this should not be connected. If I understand this right, it said it not should be connected when the test is starting. So I'm just going to try it both ways, both pushing it in after the test has started and yeah, before the test starts. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out this one and see if it has the right connections. This one I made from a lead from a 1541-2 floppy drive, and I don't remember what I did inside here. I probably did what the schematic said it should do. And the schematic said 1 and 5 and 3 and 4. And I do think it's the same on the C128 ones. At least I think it is. So I'm going to measure up this and see how the connections are inside here. But first I need to check what pin is which, and that is not marked in this one. Yeah, this is what we have to work with here, and this is from the C64, and I have also had this from 128 kind of test harness where this plug has been like this. And if you can see, one lead goes from 1 to 5, that is serial SRQ in, and it's also the fast serial clock for the 128. And you have the serial data in out, so this is the data and serial clock and data, okay, connected together. And 3 and 4 ATN, it's attention, it's the handshake signal. And 4 serial clock in out, clock for data transmission. And of course this is not used when the fast serial clock is used in 128 mode. So I'm going to check now how this is wired, and this state that this is from the female connector, but when we look into this is pin assignment to look into a socket, so I'm not sure. So I'm just going to double check this to see if we get things to make sense here. I'm just going to use the beeping on the fluke here. And 1 and 5, they are opposite of each other, so this could not be wrong. And that is clearly connected. And then if it's 3 and 4 down here, yeah, then I know that this is looking into this, so I have to check down here. Yeah, and they have connection between 3 and 4. So this is wired like this one. So this might work. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hook up the board from Arctic Retro. I just have to move some equipment along, and I'm going to run a test and see how it goes. There are some variations. This is my C64 harness, of course, and there are some variations on this. But I do think that for some of these softwares this is quite okay. But what I have to do is I have to make this lead longer to get around the corner on the 128. So at least this one has to be fixed. This is from an ordinary tape recorder that I just hacked the lead of back in the day, and here there are some resistors and stuff, and a very thin indeed wire, easy to break. Sorry, we had to break in this program to make an important news announcement. And that is, there actually are more than one way of making the tape interface on this. There are two ways that are quite similar. It's the one marked with red, a red square is the one I have. And there is another one with a diode that is much the same. And there are some more variants where they are reading this. I have not been able to figure out the diagnostic cable to the right here, what is connected to what. But this is done on a separate circuit. And there was one more, but I couldn't find it just now. But I saw it here the other day that there was another way of coupling this where you had the two wires from the tape interface. Now back to the ordinary program. And I of course don't have a wire that is that color. I'm just going to ring it here with a black wire. Yeah, about that. Should reach everywhere in the vicinity. I'm not going all the way for nice and sturdy and foolproof on this. I will have to rebuild this harness sometime in the future anyway. But as for now, I do think it will be okay. So I'm just going to keep this soldering here. I'm going to desolder this from here. If it's really soldered, I just have taken off the insulation, I think. So I do have to do like so. And the same on this side. The other way around maybe. Should be like this, I think. Yeah, so that will be it for test harness modification before we get going on this. Yeah, I do have my test cartridge here. I don't remember what Pro was in here last, but I do think it is the 58 or 78 one. And I do have this one. And I do have this one. And then I have this contraception here. And. This of course should be connected this way, and this can be a bit dangerous if it's not connected the right way, but I do think it is like so. And these joystick ports. On some of the harnesses for the 128 it doesn't matter which is port 1 and which is port 2. And I do tend to believe that that is the case also on the C64. And we need this modified tape adapter over here. And while we're speaking of modifications, we of course also need our botched connection here for the power, like so, and this like so, and we also need to connect the video, and yeah, we really should be good to go here now. Yeah, I do think I can just try to plug this in. We have a light here. And this was entering the monitor. That's not good. That means that there is some key stuck, of course. And that is why they don't want this to be connected when you enter this. Okay. I might have something seriously wrong here with this keyboard adapter. I need to check that, because it hangs when I put this in, and there could be some error on my part. Yeah, but this machine also hang on some of the test last time, so could it be the same? Yeah, and here it seems stuck again, so I will try another reset. Yeah, it got a bit further. And here you can see this test now. It has detected that you do have the 40N464 memory chips in this one. I can't remember seeing that before. Yeah, this memory testing of course takes a long time, so we might skip this if it's nothing wrong. Also, some of the diagnostics for the 128 states that if you push the 4080 column switch when you start the diagnostic, it will run without the memory test in one of the configurations. This test is now running without the keyboard harness connected. But of course, the keyboard is not the most important thing to test, because I can test the keyboard and the keyboard entry stuff with the keyboard I actually have. And this keyboard is working, it's a bit slow, and there are some keys that are a bit tight, but I'm going to test this also work with the keyboard with every key if everything else is going as it should here. Yeah, it says cassette and console port bad, and of course the sound test, but I do wonder if the console port and the cassette port is connected to the CPU as it is on the other ones. But you can see in the second time this is running, it's skipping the memory test, and it says that the 8750 U5 is bad, and of course it is, because it's not there, and the other could be the keyboard test. So I will have to dig a bit further into this, so back to the drawing board. Yes, and it's back to the drawing board, and we have to do some more theory, because we had this situation where the machine actually stopped running and it hung when we put in the keyboard dongle. And of course we have discovered that there has been at least some uncertainty and some instability on this board, but is that really the case here? Because when I took a closer view on my test harness 25 dB connector, I actually discovered that this plug here, I have just melted the plastic into the casing here, so it didn't make contact. And this is the one that goes here from pin 9 to pin 20, and it was actually on this side with pin 20. And if we look into what pin 9 and pin 20 actually does in this keyboard matrix, and you can also see here that when this loopback occurs, it's these two lines that are connected when there is a perfect loop. And that perfect loop happens to be the run stop key. So could there be some trickery with some instability, some noise or something on the run stop key that was triggering this? Yes, it could absolutely be that. So I have soldered this back in place, and I'm going to test this machine again, still without the SID chip. And I'm also going to test this now after I have used some cleaning fluid, some electric cleaning, not deoxide this time because I've run out, but it's some liquid-based electric cleaner, and I'm going to clean the cassette port, and I'm going to clean the user port, and I'm going to just connect the harness again, and we do a new test. Yeah, the screen capture or monitor filming, as it really is this time, took some time to start, so you didn't see me put in the keyboard adapter after the initial startup. And of course we do know that this plugging in and taking out things when the computer is running is not a good thing, but actually here is the only way to testing, and this time it didn't hang the machine. So that's a good sign. And the test is now running, and I'm going to skip some ahead. I'm not waiting for all these memory tests. We have tested the memory on this board many times, and it works as it should. And as I said, I don't have the 8580 U5 SID chip connected. I only have the old 12 volt SIDs available. So of course I could plug in one of them. They won't get destroyed for the 9 volt. I don't. It's easy to remedy that, but I won't bother. And that also why this control port is coming up, because the paddles are going through the 4066 chip and into this to be able to read the analog values from the paddles. So that's not something we are going to fix on this. So I'm going to wiggle about on this board and see if there are some instabilities and other stuff. And I'm going to just let this count and let it stay on for at least a half an hour. Some of these chips gets very hot, so I don't want to run it too long, but I'm going to run it, and I'm going to run it at least for half hour and let this pass through some maybe 10 rounds, something. Yeah, and you might wonder why I don't replace the 8580, the SID chip, and make a test with that. But I'm going to test this harness on my DCR afterwards, and if that tests okay on the 8580, it will be good. I don't want to change these chips around and harm them in any way with static electricity or the other ways, because these are you should really not pull these chips if there was no reason to do that. And I'm not sure how stable these boards are. I have wiggled it a bit, but it seems stable. But we had these issues before, so I think I'm going to leave it in the freeze for some time and check it then. But that will not be this video. In this video, I'm just going to run this test. I do have other appointments, so I need to finish this up so I can get this video out, so I can start with clean sheets. Maybe next week already. But doing cooling and warming of a board is what really brings out the microscopic breaks and the other issues with bad contacts in socket and stuff. But now you can see this has run for almost 35 minutes, and it's on round 14, and I do think this board is okay. There might be some more instabilities on this, but it also might be the leads from my power supply that is quite thin. So I would check this with the floppy drive. So I will test this with what I got in my DCR. I have decided on that before I ship it back. So that will be the next episode, do a final test with everything connected, the floppy drive, the works, and see how it really performs. And I also got some critics last time. I didn't check this with the 80 column. And I can go and grab a CGA monitor and test that, but I don't have any other device at hand now that can test the RGB. And as you can see, the numbering of these tests is not linear. So the 785260 that we are running, have been running now this episode, it actually detects the memory chip, so it knows that this is a DCR. That's no doubt about that. But the 789010 that has a newer number, it doesn't work quite well with the harness, as you would see here in the background, and it also it's listing the older chips, so it's not detecting this as an 8580 for the SID. It's a 6581. So this is clearly an older test. So why this numbering? I don't know, but this is some of the things with Commodore. There always was this kind of things done out of sequence, and not everything makes sense. But what we have learned is that the test harness and other stuff, you need to pair it with the 785260 or a compatible test ROM. It's not workable on other stuff. And also it tests some faults, and that is because it's expect another harness, I think. But I'm not going into that any further. As of now, the 785260 is what I'm sticking with, and I'm going to take that back when I do some flat 128s. At least I have my scrap board here that I can try to fix. So that will be, there will be more episodes about the 128, but next episode I will wrap up this series, I think, because this started with the board I got from Tommy Arctic Retro and Per Vidar DCR computers. And probably in the next episode, if we can't find any more faults on Tommy's board, I'm going to connect it to my power supply in my DCR, I'm going to connect it to the keyboard, and I'm going to connect it to the floppy drive. And if it starts and runs Gauntlet and gives a good picture, we call it the day for this series, and I can take up the 128 later on. So I do have some other projects that I need to complete. So that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed the content. Please watch some of my older videos. I really need the view time. As of now, I'm still lacking about 500 hours to get to the minimum membership level on YouTube. And the normal first layer of 4,000 hours, I'm about 1,500 off. So I need about 100 of you guys to look into some of my older videos. So, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again in my next episode.